Hi boys, we're running out of time, so I've decided to put this last part of the section that we needed to do on factorising on a video, so I'm going through it now. So you need to just pause the video and make sure you get all of these notes and examples copied into your book. Okay, so we're doing factorising. The last thing we had to do was factorising four-term expressions. We call the method grouping by pairs. So firstly, as always, you've always got to check for a common factor in all four terms first. Then after that, you're going to look at the first two terms as a pair. That's why it's called grouping by pairs. And the last two terms as a pair. So when we look at the first two terms, we're looking to see what common factor we can take out. Obviously the highest common factor. And then when we look at the last two terms, we're going to do the same thing. Take out the highest common factor. After you do that, your brackets that you have should be exactly the same. If they're not, it means that you've made a mistake. You need to go back and check what you've done. You may not have taken out the highest common factor. You might have taken out something with the wrong sign. The brackets need to be the same. Okay, so once you've done that, because the brackets are like one thing, all right, so you can't see what's in it, you will actually be only looking at two terms now. You've created two terms. So with those two terms, you take out a common factor of those two terms, which will be the common bracket. So take out that common bracket, and everything you have left that's not been written down already goes in the other bracket. So this is the way it works. So if we have a look over here, we're factorising this first one. Now, as I said, you've got to look through all four terms first to see if there's a common factor in all four terms. If I look through this one, there's nothing that's common in all four terms. So we've got four terms there. We're going to use the grouping by pairs method. So we're going to look at these first two terms as a pair, and we're going to take out the common factor of those two terms. So those two terms have common an x. So we're going to take the x out and write in a bracket what's left. So we will have 4a plus 5c. Then we look at the second pair of terms that goes from here, and we take out what's common in those two terms. And they have a plus d is common. So we're going to take out the plus d and write down in the bracket what's left. And we have left, if we take the d out of these two terms, 4a plus 5c. When you get to that line, you'll see those brackets are exactly the same. So we know we're on the right track. So now we are looking at two terms. There's your two terms, right? So this is x by a bracket. That's like looking at x, z. All right, then this is like dz. All right, so the bracket's like just one letter, and then you can see we are only dealing with two terms. When we look at those two terms, we're looking at for what's common. The bracket's the same, that's what's common, so we're taking that out. Then in the other bracket, we're going to write down what we've got left. The x plus d. And that's your answer. So it's not very hard, but you do need to practice it, especially knowing that we've got all the other methods to consider in different numbers of terms, so you need to know all your methods really well. Let's have a look at another one. This one here, we look first of all, whoops, I think I've done something wrong here, so let's start again. Okay, so I forgot to take out what was common in all four terms. So if we have a look at it now, we have, in all four terms, we've got a 3 in all of them, and that's the only thing that's common. So we're going to take that out, and then we're going to write down everything that's left. I'm just sticking to a square bracket because we're going to have the round brackets later. Now, if you look inside this square bracket here, there's nothing else that I should have taken out as common. So we've taken out what we needed to. So now we're going to keep that 3 there. And then we're going to look at this thing inside the bracket and see if we can go further. inside the bracket we have 4 terms. We've already taken out the common factor for the whole 4 terms. So now we're going to do the grouping by pairs method. So we're going to underline the 2 pairs, the first 2 terms and the second 2 terms. So looking at the first 2 terms, hit your square bracket. We're going to take out what's common from the first 2 terms, and that's A. So let's take it out, write down what's left, and that's finished. Now we're looking at the other 2 terms. We're taking out what's common first, and that's a C. Don't forget it needs a sign, so it's a positive C. Now we're going to write down what's left, and that's going to be A plus K. And close all your brackets off. Now, don't forget we're keeping this 3. Just keep it coming down if you're working. All right, now inside those brackets, we can see we've got that bracket the same. They're both the same, so we know we're doing it okay. So we're going to take that out as a common factor of these 2 terms. Write that down. And then whatever's left goes in the other bracket. And that's your answer. So you don't need to write those square brackets down. If you did in the exam, it wouldn't really matter as long as you got that answer out. Okay, so I'm going to come back in another next video and I'm going to show you a couple more examples.